They discovered the unbelievable secret of Ezekiel's Valley of Dry Bones. Few knew what truly happened that night. In the flickering shadows of creeping twilight, a lone prophet stood in the eerie silence of a forgotten valley. The air was heavy, thick with a scent of damp earth and ancient sorrow. Bones lay scattered, remnants of battles long lost. Each rib and skull glinted eerily under the pale moon. Murmurs of dread filled the air, whispers of those who had lost their lives, their stories buried deep in the soil. Ezekiel felt the weight of their gaze, the spectral presence of their pain. The valley stretched endlessly, a somber sea of bleached remains. "Son of man, can these bones live?" echoed a voice in the dark, deep and penetrating. It pierced through the hollowness, igniting a flicker of hope amidst despair. Could anything arise from such desolation? His heart raced with uncertainty. In this land of ancient Israel, where faith collided with fear, the story pulsed with spiritual significance. Here lay the key to revitalization, a pathway to awakening. Around him, the night deepened, shadows long and fingers reaching toward the lost. He surveyed the terrain, dotted with the remnants of the past, and felt a knot tighten in his chest. Why were they here now? What truth did these silent witnesses hold? Ezekiel struggled with the weight of prophecy. What if he called out, conjured life from death? Would it bring glory or disaster? It was a gamble with the divine, a chance to birth miracles from despair. His hands trembled as he repeated the command, "O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord." Suddenly, a rumble stirred beneath him. Bones rattled, moving as if possessed, reforming, aligning. The very earth trembled in response, pulses of energy vibrating through the ground. He watched, eyes wide, breath caught in a lump of disbelief. What was happening? Was it a trick of shadows or the dawning of something miraculous? The urgency of it all crashed upon him like the rising tide. Then, silence fell again, a stillness where hope collided with dread. What lay ahead? Had he awakened something that shouldn't have stirred? Was this the beginning of renewal or the harbinger of terror? Possibilities spiraled in a tornado of anticipation. His heart pounded. Ezekiel stood at the brink of revelation, teetering on the edge of the extraordinary. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ezekiel stood transfixed as the tremors subsided, his heart a symphony of hope clashing with disquiet. Before him, the bones lay still, yet he could almost feel the whisper of life lingering on the edges of that looming silence. Every fiber of his being yearned to witness the transformation, to affirm that the ancient voices of this tragic land could roar anew. But as he awaited the next sound, the echo of doubt crept ever closer. "Why do you linger, Ezekiel?" he murmured to himself, wrestling with the gravity of his prophecy. What if the bones chose to rest in their quietude? Perhaps there was wisdom in their stillness, a profound lesson wrapped in their silence. And what of the living? Would they also awaken to the stirrings of the past, or would they turn their backs, fearful of what resurrection might mean? In the depths of his contemplation, the wind began to stir. A gentle breeze danced through the valley, rustling leaves and pushing the weight of the night away, if only momentarily. From the corners of his vision, he felt the shifting shadows again, but this time they seemed to suggest something more: a connection between present and memory, between the living and the departed. With a strength he did not know he possessed, Ezekiel drew breath and spoke once more, "O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord." As his declaration hung in the air, he heard a faint sound, not unlike a distant chant, rising from below. The air stirred with a warmth, and the bones began to rattle anew, a strange harmony of chaos that reverberated through the valley. One by one, the bones began to align, as if each piece recalled its rightful place. Ezekiel's heart soared and trembled. He could not help but wonder what would emerge from this dance of creation. As if sensing his hesitation, the voice returned clearer, resonating with authority. Prophesy to the breath, Son of Man, and say to the breath, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. Could breath truly awaken the lifeless? His mind raced, grappling with the expansiveness of such a command. But in that moment, clarity pierced his inner turmoil. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was the answer to the cry of the living, a longing for connection, a yearning to breathe life into the despair that enveloped their existence. Could his words, amidst the echoes of grief, birth unity among the living and the dead? With newfound determination, Ezekiel stepped to the forefront of the mystery, folding himself into the fabric of divine purpose. Come, O breath, he called, his voice soaring beyond the confines of the valley. Breathe life into these bones. Breathe life into our stories. As the wind swirled with fervor, he watched as life began to pulse through the dry bones. Sinews formed, flesh covered them like a curtain drawn back at dawn, and skin enveloped the once desolate remains. Ezekiel felt an awe descend upon him, mingled with trepidation. Would they wake? What would emerge from this unfolding mystery? The figures, now whole yet still lifeless, lay before him like a canvas awaiting the artist's touch. It was as if the valley held its breath, waiting for the next stroke, the next moment of revelation. What was the purpose of this unfolding image? Would they rise as warriors, lamenting their fate, or as heralds of hope? The tension crackled in the air, thick with expectation. Ezekiel stood ready, gazing at the potential before him, consumed by questions that danced just out of reach. What message would these resurrected bones carry to the world beyond this valley? And deep within this mystery, what remnants of his own life and faith would he confront in the shadows of their awakening? As the night waned, one question lingered in the stillness. Could life truly spring from death, or were they doomed to forever tread the path of the past? Ezekiel stood amidst the resplendent silence, feeling the pulse of creation thrumming through the air. Each thud reverberated within him a cadence of hope entwined with uncertainty. The figures, now clothed yet still unmoving, painted a surreal portrait of longing and transformation. What came next, he pondered, as the weight of responsibility pressed ever heavier on his heart. He was immersed in the sacred moment, that fragile precipice between the world's despair and the dawn of what could be. The breath of God stirred in the air. It was palpable and tangible, whispering secrets both ancient and imminent. The vision before him was not merely the restoration of lifeless bones, but the chance for an entire people to grapple with their past and decide their future. But how would they respond? In the stillness, amid the anticipation, he sensed the awakening of memories long buried. Echoes of laughter, tears of sorrow, and the fierce cries of struggle rose from the depths of the valley like a haunting chorus. For every bone that rejoiced at the prospect of renewal, another seemed to mourn what had been irrevocably lost. Whose voice would prevail when the moment of awakening came? As if sensing his inner turmoil, the wind began to swirl, lifting his gaze upward. The heavens themselves seemed to conspire with his thoughts, and in that celestial confluence, Ezekiel marveled at an extraordinary revelation. This was not merely about collective rebirth. It was about the reconciliation of shattered histories, the yearning to embrace both sorrow and triumph. Speak to them, O Son of Man, the voice commanded once more from the depths of his soul. Ezekiel took a trembling step forward, the distance between him and the resurrected figures narrowing. With each step, he felt the weight of their stories calling out to him. You are not mere bones, but the essence of what has lingered in the shadows, ancestors wrestling with identity, grief, and hope. With urgency now coursing through him, Ezekiel drew on the well of his faith and proclaimed, O people, arise. This day is yours. The breath of the Almighty is upon you, ready to free you from the shackles of despair. For every tear wept, there is an answer. For every heart shattered, there is a chance to heal. The silence that had previously blanketed the valley shifted, morphing into a tentative murmur. The figures, once inert, seemed to strain against the threads of time binding them to the earth. But doubts whispered in his ear even as the words surged forth like a river breaking free from a dam. Would they rise to embrace the future or remain paralyzed by the weight of their past? As Ezekiel stood poised at the brink of their awakening, He felt it an unsettling mix of hope and fear. Was he truly prepared to witness what these resurrected souls would choose? To stand as the herald of change meant he could no longer retreat into the safety of former days. Their emergence would mirror his own, a confrontation with faith, legacy, and the burdens of memory. With breath held and heart pounding, Ezekiel sought the depth of his spirit for the courage to face the unknown. Would the living accept these resurrected beings, or would they recoil in shock and rejection? What would it mean for the future of their community, for the thread of divine purpose woven through their lives? As the winds continued to swirl, the tension heightened, and he realized that the answers he sought were yet shrouded in the mists of creation. As the morning light began to crest over the horizon, illuminating the valley with warmth, one question loomed larger than the rest. In seeking renewal, would they embrace the complexity of their shared story, or would they cling to the chains of their past? As the first light of dawn penetrated the shadows, a flicker of awareness stirred within the ranks of the resurrected figures. The quiet murmur of hope mingled with confusion as they blinked against the morning sun, their senses awakening to a world that had waited patiently for their return. Their limbs, still tangled with the remnants of the past, quivered with the electric pulse of new life. Yet, they hesitated, as if caught in an unspoken agreement to linger in liminality. Ezekiel watched, heart pounding, as the emergence of their consciousness began to break the stillness. Their eyes revealed stories untold, depths of sorrow, and glimmers of light yearning for expression. It was an extraordinary sight, this gathering of forgotten voices rising to the surface, longing to weave a new tapestry of existence from the frayed threads of despair that had bound them. "Who are we?" A voice broke the silence, filled with an echo that resonated through the valley. It was a question not merely of identity, but of reconciliation with a lineage that marked them profoundly. They were echoes of a history still raw, the product of tales woven with grief and resilience, yet capable of seeking a future much brighter than their past. Gathering his courage, Ezekiel responded, "You are the children of dreams deferred, the essence of every prayer and tear ever cast into the everlasting void of space. You are the marrow of our community's spirit, the very bones that molded our purpose." The figures began to move, each step tentative yet infused with a growing conviction. As the sun rose ever higher, their limbs invigorated with strength, echoes of a collective pain surrendered to the light. They reached out to one another, grappling not only with the sweetness of rebirth, but the weight of loss that threatened to suffocate any joy they may have found. An old man, his face lined with the stories of a lifetime, stepped forward. "What awaits us? What do we do now that we are alive again?" His voice trembled, not merely with the uncertainty of his surroundings, but with the fear of what reclamation might entail. Ezekiel stepped closer, his heart catching in his throat. "You must remember and reclaim, and in doing so, redefine what it means to belong together," he urged, his own trepidation mirrored in their wide eyes. "This is a journey that will require unwavering faith, not only in your own worth, but in the willingness of others to welcome you back to this realm." An anxious murmur coursed through the figures as they contemplated the daunting path ahead. Threads of acceptance and rejection, vitality and vulnerability, swirled through their thoughts like the winds that still danced across the valley. Could they bridge the chasm of their shared history? Could they confront the hurt they had inflicted on one another and heal? As Ezekiel observed the tapestry of their emotions unfold, he felt a symphony of hope crescendo in his spirit. It became clear, in choosing to rise, they were not only resurrecting themselves, but were avowing their commitment to navigate the intricacies of their community's heart. To truly soar into the future would require them to cradle their past, not as a burden, but as the very soil from which new growth could flourish. Yet beneath this blossoming hope lay an unsettling question. In reclaiming their identities, would they be able to forgive not only themselves, but also those who had cast them aside? As the dawn's warmth enveloped them, sending ripples of energy through their beings, the promise of transformation hung palpably in the air, yet the complexity of their intertwined stories lingered like an unanswered prayer. In this moment of awakening, as memories mingled with aspirations in the brightening sky, one reflective question wove its way through Ezekiel's mind. Would their rebirth lead them toward understanding? Or would they find themselves ensnared in the very cycles they hoped to escape? As the figures stood in the embrace of dawn, their breaths synchronized in a collective rhythm that echoed through the valley. An instinctive pull guided them toward the center of their gathering, a place where long-forgotten dreams awaited revival. They could sense a power coursing through the air, a tangible energy that spoke of both loss and potential. And with each passing moment, their scattered memories began to form a cohesive narrative, illuminating pathways yet unexplored. Ezekiel, heartened by their burgeoning connection, observed the strength of their will. Each resurrected soul held the weight of their experiences, yet it became evident that the spirit of community was beckoning them to stand as one. They began to mingle, sharing whispers of their past tales of struggles, of love lost, of mistakes made and burdens borne. The valley held its breath, as if listening intently to the symphony of lives intertwining once more. In this tender moment of vulnerability, a young woman stepped forth, eyes shimmering like the sunrise. "What if we are not the only ones who have been forgotten?" she inquired, her voice carrying a mystical quality. "What if there are others like us, waiting in the shadows of despair, longing for a spark of renewal?" The question stirred a sense of unease among the figures. Could it be that the lingering shadows still held others trapped in the cycle of grief? Ezekiel felt a profound weight in her words. "It is a possibility," he replied slowly, "that perhaps the call to rebirth extends beyond this valley. They too may yearn for a glimmer of hope, for the chance to reconnect with their essence. But how do we find them? And will they accept us?" An old woman, her voice wavering yet firm, added, "We can become messengers of healing. By sharing our stories, we can shed light in the darkness. Our own journeys of forgiveness might offer a path for others still shrouded in the haze of abandonment." The conviction in her voice breathed life into hesitant hearts. Ezekiel felt the stirrings of a deeper truth emerging, the responsibility tethered to their rebirth. "Yes," he affirmed, his heart racing. "To illuminate the way for others, we must first illuminate our own shadows. Each of us carries not only the scars of our past, but also the seeds of a future yet unplanted. With every story shared, we reclaim our voices, and slowly, we sow the groundwork for a broader awakening." As the sun climbed higher, casting warmth across the valley, the figures began to weave their individual tales into a collective tapestry, a vibrant array of colors reflecting struggles intertwined with gratitude. They spoke of love, of betrayal, of dreams deferred, with every word wrapping around one another like roots reaching down into nourishing soil. Yet, despite this awakening, Ezekiel felt the weight of undefinition pressing upon them. But what does the road ahead truly look like? Is it merely about healing our own wounds? Or is there a larger mission at stake? If we do find others, how will we ensure they do not feel the same rejection we experienced? An air of contemplation settled around him, a shared understanding sparking in the eyes of those gathered. They reached a pivotal moment, a decision that could herald a shift in their destinies. Could they rise collectively, not only to reclaim their place in the world, but to be a beacon for those still caught within the web of despair? As they contemplated this daunting prospect, Ezekiel was struck by a new realization. The journey of resurrected lives was not only about self-discovery, but also about the responsibility to carry forth the flame of hope. Answers seemed to flutter at the edges of comprehension, but the path remained shrouded in mystery. In the pulse of this new reality, a singular question reverberated in Ezekiel's mind and echoed through the hearts of those gathered. Could their resurrection and reclamation of identity spark a revolution of hope that could transcend their own? Would they possess the courage to lead others out from beneath the weight of abandonment, or would they find themselves grappling anew with the chains of history? As the sun crowned the horizon, the valley was reborn in light, vivid against the backdrop of the previous night's shadows. It breathed with renewed life, calling forth the dormant spirits that lingered in the wake of the gathering. Ezekiel and the figures sensed an ancient pulse beneath their feet, a heartbeat echoing back through generations, urging them toward a deeper understanding of their destiny. Ezekiel felt an unquenchable desire to explore the valley further. "Perhaps," he suggested, "the very land we stand upon holds secrets yet untold." If we are to ignite the hearts of those who wander in the darkness, let us seek the truths woven into this soil. What stories does it hold, and what can we uncover about ourselves through it? The group regarded him with curious expressions, the promise of discovery flickering in their eyes. They began to traverse the valley, seeking out hidden corners and forgotten paths, each step resonating with the history of those who had walked there before. The air felt charged with an otherworldly energy, as if the land itself was alive and eager to share its wisdom. As they wandered, a peculiar formation caught their attention. An ancient stone altar, half consumed by creeping vines, rose proudly above their heads. The stones were weathered, yet each bore faint carvings, intricate symbols of life, death, and rebirth that whispered of the cycle of existence. Ezekiel approached the altar with a mix of reverence and trepidation, the energy of this sacred ground swirling around him. What if this place is more than just a remnant of the past? He pondered aloud, his voice softened by the significance of their discovery. What if it serves as a bridge between our history and the future we aspire to create? The young woman, still illuminated by her earlier insights, stepped closer to Ezekiel. This altar may hold the key to connecting with those in the shadows you spoke of, she replied, her fingers tracing the carvings. Each symbol represents not only our struggles, but the collective spirit of humanity, the unbroken thread that links us all. What if we channel this energy? What if we harness its power to summon those who need our light? The figures gathered closer, their anticipation palpable. The old woman reached out to touch the altar. If we unite our voices in prayer or song, perhaps the very stones will resonate with our harmonies, calling forth the lost souls we seek to save. Ezekiel felt a wave of hope wash over him. He realized this was not merely about individual healing. It transcended to becoming agents of transformation. The idea of the altar blossomed in his heart. Let us celebrate our tales, our grief and joy alike. In expressing our wholeness, we may not only find ourselves, but also reach those lost among the shards of despair. As they joined hands, the figures surrounded the altar, heartbeats connected in a rhythm steeped in purpose. Their voices rose in a harmonious melody, chanting words of hope, forgiveness, and invitation to the forgotten. With each note, the valley seemed to hum along with them, vibrating with memories of despair turning to joy. Yet, as their songs soared, Ezekiel felt an unsettling pause stir around them. Was the valley merely reflecting their desires, or was it actively responding to their calls? He sensed a delicate threshold between their intentions and the realm of the unknown. What truths might this altar unveil? What responses might it summon from the deeper recesses of existence? As their voices faded into the echoing silence, an undeniable energy lingered in the air, an invitation not yet fully revealed. They stood there in collective breath, waiting for a revelation that seemed just out of reach. In this moment of profound anticipation, a singular thought flickered in Ezekiel's mind, merging with the lingering vibrations around them. What will we find when we finally connect with those who have yet to hear our song? And once they arrive, how will we embrace the weight of their stories, while still nurturing the fire of our own? As the echoes of their song faded into the vastness of the valley, a shiver of anticipation ran through Ezekiel and the figures, as though the land itself was poised on the edge of revealing its secrets. The air thrummed with a mystery deeper than they had anticipated, wrapping around them like an ancient cloak, heavy with the weight of forgotten tales. Ezekiel's eyes roamed the intricate carvings on the altar, feeling an almost magnetic pull towards them. Each symbol told a story, a visual language that bridged their present with the histories enshrined in the earth beneath their feet. He stepped closer, compelled to decipher the enigmatic language etched in the stone. "Do you sense it?" he whispered, almost as if afraid to disturb the ethereal atmosphere. "This altar may be a conduit, a place where the past converges with the present, revealing our collective destiny." The old woman, whose wisdom was often overshadowed by her frailty, closed her eyes and took a deep breath, as if inhaling the very essence of the ground. "The valley has its own voice, Ezekiel. We must listen deeply. It is not only a reflection of our hearts, but also a mirror to what has been and what is yet to come." She opened her eyes, peering intensely into the horizon as though she could see the shadows of time flickering in the distance. As they stood united around the altar, the ground trembled slightly, a subtle yet profound quiver that seemed to transcend the natural realm. The figures exchanged glances, their expressions morphing from wonder to resolve. What if the very ground we tread upon holds the keys to stories that could guide us forward, narratives that intertwine the living and the lost? Asked the young man, his voice trembling with the weight of possibility. Ezekiel nodded, his resolve strengthening. Let us not only seek to connect with those in despair, but also understand our own place within this cycle of life and death. If we are to summon the lost, we must first embrace our own shadows. What connections exist between our life journeys and their struggles? The group fell silent, contemplating the gravity of his words. In that stillness, the wind picked up, swirling around them like an unseen spirit, carrying whispers from the distant past into their present moment. The shadows of the valley flickered, and within their depths, Ezekiel perceived a movement subtle but unmistakably, as if the valley itself was steeped in anticipation. What holds the valley's heart? The young woman finally asked, her voice a mere breath against the surging atmosphere. Is it merely a collection of bones from lives once lived, or something infinitely more profound? In response to her question, the altar glimmered, caught in a beam of morning light that broke through the lingering mist. Each carving ignited with a gentle glow, pulsating rhythmically as if the stones were absorbing their collective energy, inviting them to explore the wellspring of wisdom buried deep within. Ezekiel's breath hitched. What if these bones are more than remnants of sorrow? What if they are symbols of renewal, waiting to be transformed into something life-giving? He stepped forward, placing his hands on the altar and feeling a surge of connection reverberate through Hema communion, not just with those in despair, but also with those who had once walked this land. Each pulse resonated with the deep echoes of lives intertwined. With this realization, the group gathered closer, encircling Thalassa, the ancient altar now alive with their energy. They began to speak their names, lingering on the echoes of their own stories, infusing them into the marrow of the earth. It was a relinquishing of burdens and an honoring of their journeys. Perhaps, Ezekiel pondered, we must confront the stories we carry within us. Perhaps they hold the very key to calling forth the souls hidden in the valley's embrace. Yet even as they voiced their tribulations, a shadow flickered at the edge of their consciousness, a lingering uncertainty that refused to dissipate. The air felt thick with an unformed presence, as if newer. Revelations hovered just out of reach. What will it mean, Ezekiel reflected quietly, when we finally uncover the truths tethered to this valley? Will we be ready to face the weight of the stories that rise from the ashes of despair? And how will this transformation reshape our understanding of who we are? As the sun began its slow ascent, casting golden hues across the valley, Ezekiel could feel a shift in the atmosphere. The energy around the altar seemed to hum with an urgency, sparking an instinctual understanding that they were on the cusp of something monumental. The carvings glowed brighter, and the increasingly vibrant colors of the stones acted as a vivid backdrop to their shared moment of connection. Look, the old woman cried, her frail hand pointing towards a symbol at the center of the altar. It depicted a seed, nestled in the palm of a hand, surrounded by a circle of intricate leaves. This symbol speaks of new life, of the potential within each ending. The stories we bear may darken our hearts, but they also possess the keys to growth. Ezekiel leaned closer, the pulse of the altar syncing with the rhythm of his heart. A seed, he murmured, is both the promise of what is to come and the weight of what must be buried and transformed. These bones represent the loss, but they also hint at rebirth. The young man, emboldened by these words, began to express his own history, his voice trembling yet resonant. I have lost much family, friends completely consumed by grief. Yet, reflecting on my personal struggles, I realize I hold them dearly, like seeds in a dark soil, nurturing the hope that one day my wounds can yield compassion for others. The silence fell among them, rich with the gravity of shared loss and understanding. The wind now had a soothing presence, as if whispering assurances of life beyond death. For a moment, they felt as though the valley itself had pressed closer, gently urging them to unlock its secrets. What if we could aid those souls in finding peace by revealing the truths we've buried? The young woman proposed, a flicker of determination igniting in her eyes. In sharing our burdens, perhaps we invoke the spirits that dwell amongst these bones, creating a bridge between their past disappointments and our shared hopes. Ezekiel nodded, deep in thought. To acknowledge our pain is to honor their story. But what presence stirs in these bones? Are they simply echoes of lives that once were, or do they contain a spirit yearning for recognition? The weight of those questions hung heavy in the air, each member of the group wrestling silently with the uncertainty it sparked. Suddenly, as if responding to their contemplation, a low rumble emanated from the depths of the valley. The dust swirled around their feet, conjuring images from the past figures emerging from the ground in fragmented danse macabre. He could hear whispers, pleading and urgent, calling out to him through the chasms of time that I in that moment. Ezekiel felt a wild mix of fear and exhilaration. What if these spirits are waiting, not just for our acknowledgement, but for us to participate in their release? The thought danced at the edge of his mind, mingling with the energy of the altar. To invite them back to the world of the living is to carry the weight of their histories, fully aware of the sorrow they bring. As the vibrations from the altar intensified, the group shared uneasy glances, a palpable blend of trepidation and reverence threading through their bonds. The valley seemed to breathe with them, shifting uncomfortably, almost urging them forward. What if we are not only uncovering the past, but also calling forth a future laden with energy, both precious and burdensome? Ezekiel wondered aloud. This revelation sent ripples of fear through the group, creating a shared vulnerability that both terrified and exhilarated them. Would they find the strength to weave their narratives with those of the valley, to invite the lost souls back and embrace the complex tapestry of life that interlaced the living and the dead? And in their quest for connection, how would they navigate the sacred responsibility that followed a dance of shadows and light mingling at the precipice of existence? As the rumbling settled, the group drew closer to the altar, attuned to its vibrations, a heartbeat pulsing from the depths of the earth itself. Ezekiel placed his hands upon the cool, ancient stone, feeling both the weight of the past and the tremors of possibility thrill through him. The symbols carved into the altar appeared to shimmer in that moment, almost alive, as if they were inviting the group to uncover more than just the somber histories they carried. With every beat of his heart echoing the rhythm of the altar, Ezekiel's mind drifted to the stories inscribed upon the bones surrounding him. What if these bones are not merely memories, but manifestations of unfulfilled stories? He mused, his voice flooded with newfound resolve. Stories that seek resolution, yearning to bridge the gap between despair and hope. The old woman, her eyes gleaming with insight, responded quietly yet emphatically, "Do we not often revisit our own grief, hoping to find a thread that can knit our past with our present? Perhaps these souls, too, desire to reclaim their narrative." The wind picked up, carrying her words to the windswept hills beyond, where shadows lengthened and vibrant fluttering leaves whispered secrets. Their surroundings grew even more luminous, as though the very fabric of the landscape was shifting in response to the gravity of their thoughts. Ezekiel looked around at his companions, each grappling with their own histories laid bare before them. "Let us not forget," he continued, "that in our own dark soil, life quietly persists. These rites of passage don't conclude simply with loss. They are, rather, the prelude to revival." Suddenly, he thought of the times when he too had felt buried, consumed by regret or sorrow, longing for a spark of light to seep through the cracks. What if in calling forth this energy, we can bring forth understanding for ourselves while honoring the narrative of those who once thrived here? He suggested. The young woman nodded, her brow furrowing in deep contemplation. Yet, what of the consequences? We tread on sacred ground, within realms that intertwine life and death. Can we bear the ramifications of such an encounter? A murmur of uncertainty wound through the group, accusations of reverence and fear colliding within the atmosphere. They knew they were at a precipice, following a thread that led them not just deeper into mystery, but into the essence of their own being. Ezekiel leaned closer to the altar, feeling the longing of the spirits envelop him, urging him to listen. What if their whispers could enlighten our paths and transform our understanding? His heart raced at the thought, Would it not be a gift, a chance to heal not only ourselves, but these forsaken souls? A deep silence ensued, the thrumming of the altar pulsating like a living echo of questions yet unanswered. The group felt wrapped in a tapestry woven from their threads of fear and faith, the remnants of lives visited through tales long left untold. Suddenly, the swirling dust heaved upward, revealing glistening motes caught in the slanting sunbeams. Images flickered within the mist faces, their expressions caught somewhere between joy and grief, danced with ethereal grace. The valley felt alive with the wise whispers of ancient spirits, tales that were still seeking voice. Ezekiel believed they had stumbled upon a profound truth, that in learning about the bones, they might also learn about themselves. Perhaps the souls wish for us to be the stewards of their stories, to grasp that in sharing, we may discover the sacred bonds that connect all. Yet, a new question rippled through his thoughts like a stone cast into still water. If they were to usher forth these spirits, what fragments of their own lives would they be asked to confront? And with this connection, what price might they pay for the sacred responsibility of intertwining destinies across time? As the valley stirred in response to the rising sun, the air shimmered with palpable tension, a mix of anticipation and uncertainty hanging over Ezekiel and the figures before him. They were a collective of souls striving to emerge from shadows long forgotten, standing at the nexus of desire and fear, waiting for the ancient wisdom that resided within the bones to reveal itself. The altar, suffused with the morning light, pulsed with an energy that felt both alluring and ominous, as if it held the sacred secret of renewal. "Is it possible," Ezekiel began, his voice steady yet trembling with reverence, "that the lost souls are waiting for us to witness their stories? What if their pain reflects our own, their struggles mirrors of our journeys?" The group leaned closer, thoughts intertwining as they considered the implications of his words. That a wave of silence fell upon them, and then a voice emerged from the throbbing energy of the altar, the voice of a woman, soft yet commanding. "We are the echoes of sorrow, the unfulfilled prayers. We need you to listen, to remember." The words wafted around them, entering their hearts as an invitation, not just a lament. Ezekiel felt his skin prickling with the presence of the voices, the memories circling around like fireflies in the dusk. "What do you seek from us?" He called into the silence, the question mingled with a yearning for connection. "That we yearn for recognition, for our stories to be told, not just in whispers among shadows," the spirit replied, a warmth radiating from the altar. "In sharing our lives, you weave the tapestry of hope, bridging the realms of the forgotten and the living." An extraordinary calm enveloped Ezekiel as realization surged through him, igniting his spirit. It was not merely about resurrecting the dead. It was about weaving their pain and triumph into a new narrative, one that could inspire healing and transcendence. "Then let us not fear what lies in the depths," he proclaimed, "but embrace it as a vital thread in this masterpiece of existence." The figures beside him began to hold hands, forming a circle around the altar, their hearts synchronized in a pulsing rhythm of understanding. With each beat, they felt the stirring of the past, their own grief intermingling with the stories of the departed. A young man stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "I lost my sister, her laughter forever etched in my memory. I hold my grief close, but today I release it. I invite her spirit to walk beside me again." As he spoke, the ground began to vibrate, and with each declaration, the life force within the valley surged. Others followed suit, each one sharing their own pain, weaving their narratives into the fabric of the moment. "I was once lost," an old woman whispered. "I felt invisible. But today, I stand to honor those like me, who felt forsaken." As more voices joined, the vibrations grew, resonating throughout the valley, a siren call echoing through time. The altar began to glow brighter, as though responding to their collective courage. The symbols carved in stone danced under the caress of the warm morning light, illuminating the very essence of what it meant to be human, to love, to lose, to reclaim. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through, encircling the gathered souls as new layers of life unfolded before them. The figures that once lay lifeless began to shimmer, and with every breath of their ancestors, flesh and spirit melded into the oneness of existence. A gift is unfolding, Ezekiel proclaimed as the morning chorus swelled. You are not just reborn. You are a testimony to the resilience of the human spirit, the living embodiment of every struggle faced, every dream deferred. Rise and greet the dawn of new beginnings. The collective energies converged in a brilliant cascade of light, weaving around each figure with ethereal love. Those once lost stepped forth, their essence intertwining with the living, a dance of empowerment igniting the heart of the valley. Voices rose as past and present merged, forming a resonance that transcended Tamia, living history vibrating with stories meant to be told. As the merging culminated, Ezekiel felt a powerful surge, a clarion call reaching into the core of every soul gathered. In this resurrection, he declared, we discover the deepest truth, that every ending is a beginning cloaked in shadows. We are not merely vessels of our own stories, but custodians of every life that came before us. Together, we bear the sacred duty to illuminate the way for the lost and the forgotten. With a final surge, the altar erupted in light, releasing tendrils of hope that spiraled upward, merging with the heavens above. The valley resonated with a symphony of voices, a harmonious celebration of life, weaving through time and space, a tapestry formed by love, loss, redemption, and unwavering faith. As dawn broke fully over the horizon, a profound stillness followed, enveloping the valley, the kind that hinted at profound change. Ezekiel gazed around at the gathered souls, now reflected in the sparkling hues of the morning sun. In their eyes, he saw a reflection of his own journey, the trials, the tears, and ultimately, the triumph of faith renewed. Remember, he whispered, the echoes of discovery reverberating through him. Life flows eternally, intertwined. Through our shared burdens, we ignite the sparks of hope that bridge generations. The stories we tell today become the legacy of tomorrow. With that, hope surged raw, powerful, and undeniable, like a river flowing unchained. And in this transformation was the promise that they would not only resurrect those within the valley, but beckon the lost from all corners, illuminating the shadows of despair with the unwavering flame of love and connection. Ezekiel stood tall, enveloped in the warmth of revelation. He understood now the true miracle was not in the bones that rose, but in the hearts that expanded, the souls that united, and the light that would never again wane, as long as they dared to remember and share the stories that sought to resurface. In that moment, beneath an infinite sky, they became living affirmations, testaments that together they could breathe life into despair, holding fast to the truth that while the cycle of life and death may dance in shadows, hope eternally beckoned from beyond.